Okay.
Recording.
All right, thank you. So I'll call the meeting to order. It is 6:03 p.m. on April 22nd, 2021, and I would like to call this meeting of the Measure P Citizens Oversight Committee to order. In the interest of public health and safety and pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order N2920, members of the Measure P Citizens Oversight Committee and staff are participating in this meeting by teleconference. In accordance with the executive order, the public may view this meeting online, but not in the Public Works Center lunchroom. The city launched a virtual commenting portal, e-comment, that allows residents to comment and participate in the meeting from their own homes. You can find the link in the e-comment at www.chulavista.gov. Oh, sorry, chulavista.c. Oh, sorry, www.chulavistaca.gov/virtual meetings. Your comments must be electronically entered into e-comment and received before I call for the close of commenting period for each item in order to be considered. After the commenting period is closed, we will give a moment to allow the committee members time to read any comment that have been received. If you have difficulty or need assistance with e-comment during the meeting, please call 619-585-5620 and finance staff will assist you. Would the secretary please call the roll and include the newly appointed committee members?
Committee member Enriquez.
Present.
Committee member First. I can see you, but I can't hear you. Committee member Friels.
Present.
I'm not sure who has their mic on, but please turn it off. Thank you. Committee member Hunt.
Present.
Thank you. Committee member Elias.
Present.
Committee member Lenjo.
Present.
Committee member Martinez.
Present.
Committee member Rita.
Present.
Committee member Romo.
Present.
Committee member Saldivar.
Present.
Committee member Sheridan. Committee member Sheridan is absent. Committee member Vigilante.
Present.
Committee member Voorhees. Committee member Voorhees. Todd, can you hear me? Okay, I see his name, but he's not responding. Committee member Ziomek.
Present.
Thank you. Chair Garcias.
Present. Okay. We do have 3 new committee members. Commissioner Enriquez, Elias, and Saldivar. Do you want to tell a little bit about yourself? We'll start with Commissioner Enriquez.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicole Enriquez. I'm the Parks and Recreation Commission representative, and I'm also a principal in an elementary school. I have 2 boys, and and I've been a lifetime citizen of Chula Vista. Great to be here.
Thank you. And Commissioner Elias?
Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. My name is Saad Elias. I am the representative from District 3. I live in the Chula Vista area, in the Ota Ranch area. I have 3 kids, and I'm a small business owner in project management. Looking forward to working with all of you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner Saldivar?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Sylvia Saldivar. I'm the Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment representative. Yeah, lifelong resident of Chula Vista here in District 4. Happy to be here.
All right, thank you, Commissioner, and welcome aboard. Let's see. We'll do. Let's move on to the consent calendar. Please, staff, if you could please start the timer for 2 minutes to allow the public to submit any final comments on the 2 items in the consent calendar. As a reminder to the COC members, please refresh the view on your comment screen during the pause to ensure that any new comments appear. Thank you. Okay, did staff receive any comments on the 2 items on consent?
No comments have been received.
Okay, can I get a motion for approval and a second on the consent items?
So moved.
Commissioner Friels,
Okay, so I had,
make a motion.
okay, who's that?
Commissioner Friels,
Okay, thank you. And second?
Chris Rito.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Will the secretary please call the roll call vote?
Enriquez,
I'm going to pass just because I wasn't at the last meeting. So.
first. I can't hear you. Yes? Okay, thank you. Friels,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Ilias, committee member Ilias, Sayed, I can't hear you.
Is this for me?
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was on mute. I thought I wasn't on mute. Yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
Lenjo,
Yes.
Martinez,
Yes.
Rito,
Yes.
Romo,
Yes.
Saldivar.
I'll abstain.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna abstain and pass this.
Okay, thank you. Vigilante,
Yes.
thank you. Voorhees, Todd, no answer. Ziomek,
Yes.
thank you. Chair Garcias,
Yes. Okay.
so we had 11 yeses, 2 passes.
So the consent calendar is approved. So let's move on to the public comments portion of the agenda. This is the section of the agenda for members of the public to address COC committee on items that are not listed on the agenda, but are in the purview of the committee. Staff, please start the timer for the 2 minutes to allow the public to submit any comments. As a reminder to the COC members, please refresh the view on your e-comment screen during the pause to ensure that any comments do appear. Okay, the commenting period for public comments is now closed. Did we receive any e-comments?
No comments have been received.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on to action items, starting with item number 6.1. Staff, can you begin the presentation?
Kelly, did you want me to start off?
No, I'll start off. Good evening, everyone. This is Kelly Broughton, the Deputy City Manager for the City of Chula Vista. And tonight we have 4 action items for you, and they're part of the actual specific duties that are outlined in the municipal code for the Citizens Oversight Committee. The first one will be to review and comment on the proposed spending plan for Measure P. The next is an item that we'll go into later is the annual Measure P audit report. The third item under the action agenda is for consideration of the FY 21-22 budget for the Measure P. And then the last is approving the committee draft annual report for presentation to City Council. The first item on the Measure P spending plan, I have 4 gentlemen here to help walk us through this item. First that'll start would be David Bilby, the Director of Finance, and he'll be covering where the funding's coming from for the financing of the projects that we're going to be presenting. Matt Little, the Director of Public Works, will cover the ones that are being managed by Public Works. Tracy Lam will be covering projects from the Community Services Department. And then Bill Valley, be the Director of Engineering and Capital Projects, will be covering the engineering projects that we have on slate for the next 2 to 3 years. Following that, we'll consider the staff recommendations that are in the agenda, and we'll start with David Bilby.
Good evening, Honorable Committee, and welcome to our new members as well. My name is David Bilby, Director of Finance for the city. I'm happy to share with you our first part of our spending plan. This is actually amendment number 8 from our original spending plan that was put together several years ago at the formation of Measure P. And this iteration actually has some pretty extensive changes. I will do my best not to be redundant, but there is some overlap between our items tonight relating to the spending plan and the budget. Basically, what we've done for this, major overhaul of the spending plan is we've looked at a significant increase in revenues that the city has been receiving over the last year and projects to receive over the next several years as a result of several factors related to our sales tax, a shift in online sales as a result of COVID-19, stimulus money being injected into the economy has caused our 2 transaction and use tax revenues to go up significantly more than originally projected. So we are seeing significant revenue increases. You can see those numbers on page 25 of the attachment. So this item is covered in pages 10 through 25 on the attachment to the agenda. And so what we've done as a group of city management and executive team is we've allocated these dollars to projects, which my colleagues will be discussing in just a few moments. And one of the ideas that we had for this that's unique is we've spent through our bond proceeds money that we had issued several years back. And now we're looking at trying to complete several projects that are of significant size. And so the city is looking at potentially advancing or shifting projects up to make them happen sooner. And this may result in the Measure P fund actually depleting its cash reserves. But what we're doing is we're essentially planning this in order to save the city money in the long run by getting these projects done sooner and have the cost savings from the projects occur earlier in the cycle. So if the cash does actually deplete itself, the city the way it accounts for Measure P funds is within the general fund as a whole, and the city does have cash within the general fund and cash reserves in the general fund. But we don't anticipate that being a significant drawdown. It's in order to bid out projects, we need to adopt a budget that has the sufficient funds in order to actually proceed with bidding them out and proceeding with the project. So with that, I'll pass it over to my colleagues there. Matt Little of Bill Valley will jump in next.
All right, can we bring up the presentation? Perfect. So good evening, commissioners. I'm Matt Little. I'm the city's Public Works Director. We also have Angelica Aguilar on the on the call as well. She's the Assistant Director of Public Works. Tonight, we're going to walk through the next 3 years of projects that Public Works is going to be working on. These projects are grouped together mostly in the mostly as capital improvement projects that reflect the Measure P categories. What you'll see as we go through the projects is that there's a focus on HVAC and roofing systems really over the next couple of years. Next slide, please. All right, so the first one up is the Civic Center and South Libraries. Over the next 3 years, we'll be spending roughly $1.9 million. We have 4 projects underway currently. At the Civic Center Library, we have the restroom remodel, which will go into construction in the next couple of months. We have 88 parking lot improvements, and we have the boiler chiller, which are components of the HVAC system. At the South Library, we're replacing the front door that got vandalized last month. So all these projects are expected to be completed this summer. Upcoming projects in the next couple of years will be further HVAC repairs to both facilities, and then at the South Library, we have a pretty extensive flooring and lighting project. Next slide, please.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Commissioner Reader. Mr. Little, if you go back to the last slide. A couple of years ago, when this project was under review, the flooring was a big problem. What was the diagnosis of the problem with the flooring buckling? Did you ever find it
You're
out?
talking about the South Library?
Yes.
Yeah. So what's happening is, and this has been a long-standing problem for that facility, so there's a lot of water in the foundation of that project. And so what happens is the water comes up through the foundation, and if you don't use the correct kind of flooring, it actually gets stuck between the flooring and the concrete and erodes the adhesive on the carpet, and then it causes it to come up. And that carpeting system that they installed, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago was actually a tile system. And as that adhesive breaks down, the tiles actually come up. So that was the problem. And so what we're going to do this time around is we're kind of relooking at the flooring with community services. And some of the floorings we may leave concrete because the concrete's actually in great shape. Some of them we're going to use a carpet or a material that actually breathes very well, so that you won't have that kind of accumulation of moisture which breaks down the adhesive. So the idea is we put in a breathable carpet. Some floorings may be concrete, you know, like a polished concrete or a stained concrete. And so we actually have a tour tomorrow at that facility to kind of walk through and get some ideas.
So the underlying foundation is solid. It's just the
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So what happened was when they built the facility, they didn't put a vapor barrier in. And so that was actually, it's been a long-standing issue. All right, so slide 3. So recreation in senior centers. In this category, we'll be spending about $1.8 million over the next 3 years. Currently, we're working on the HVAC system of the Norman Park Senior Center. We expect it to be completed this summer. Upcoming projects, this is where you start to see roofing systems. You know, over the next couple of years, we have extensive roofing system repairs at Otay Rec, Lauterbach, and Salt Creek. And then one of the exciting projects out here that's kind of there's the Oleander Rec building. And most of you may know this building as the old Boys and Girls Club off of Oleander. And we want to remodel that so community services can use that as a fully functioning rec center and maybe do some other activities out of there. Pretty exciting project. All right, next slide. Other public facilities. We'll be spending about $3.4 million over the next 3 years on this category. We have 4 projects underway now. We have the Living Coast Deck and Rail project. We've got a switchgear project over at Oleander. And then at the Public Works Yard, we're working on the chiller, which is part of the HVAC system. And then we have some solar inverters we're working on. Those should be completed, I think the chiller and the solar inverters by the winter of 21. So upcoming, we have a number of HVAC. You can guys look through the list. There's a lot of projects in there, but really HVAC and plumbing projects really rule the roost on this one. All right, slide 5. All right, Roar Park restroom. So this is a replacement of an existing restroom. The project in totality is about $1.1 million. Construction, this is exciting. Construction starts with the demolition of the existing facility, and it should start at the end of next week. It'll probably take about 6 months to build. If you're unfamiliar with the location, the restroom is located on the north side of the park, just west of Roar Manor. It's currently closed and has been closed for a long time. So it'll be a great asset to bring it back online. There are a lot of park users at Roar, so. All right, next slide, please. Fleet infrastructure. So this project is really about rebuilding our fuel delivery system and our fuel management system. So we have fuel at the public works yard. We have it at multiple fire stations. And it's really updating that systems and those systems all around, and then the actual fuel management software and all the components that go along with it, communication systems. We haven't made any upgrades to this system in 15 years probably. And so it barely works right now. So this is a very important project that we need to have done by the end of 21. So, all right, next slide. Non-safety vehicles. So over the next 3 years, we plan on purchasing about 100 vehicles / pieces of equipment. Currently, our non-safety fleet, so this is everything but fire and police, all right, is about 391 pieces of, or vehicles, pieces of equipment. So far, in Measure P, we've already replaced about 115 of those. And so we, next year we'll hopefully get about it, or over the next 3 years, we'll do about another 100. This category really supports public works, animal care, community services, development services, and engineering. So we have a pretty good sized fleet. The other exciting thing we're going to be doing over the next year is doing a complete fleet study to make sure our fleet is right sized. Go through, we'll talk to each department, really understand what their needs are to be able to deliver the service, figure out the best way to deliver those, those needs and that service, and really look at the fleet to make sure it's sized correctly.
I have another question. Commissioner
Sure.
Rito here. Are any of these vehicles going to be replaced with electric vehicles?
Yes, any opportunity we have, and we've already done quite a lot of electric vehicles. It does get challenging with heavy equipment, obviously, or big trucks and stuff like that, but that technology is changing. And so part of our fleet study is to look at that, because when we go to electric, we do reduce maintenance costs. There are some significant benefits to that whole program, as well as all the environmental benefits of doing it. So we're looking at all that. But yeah, and we've done a lot of it already. So most of the sedans you see the city drive are electric now.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, the police facility. So this one, this project here, probably the largest project in this, in the police facility right now is the HVAC system, and that's estimated at around $1 million over the next couple of years. That building runs 24 hours a day. And so it's about 17 years old. And so if you think of a life cycle of, normal HVAC system on a commercial building, they run, let's put 12 hours a day. This building's, these kind of 24-hour facilities age twice as fast as a normal facility because they're being used all the time. So in out years, we're going to spend $1 million over the next couple of years, really to try to get the system, take care of some problems that we're aware of, and then really evaluate the long-term HVAC needs of that facility, in year 3, 4, and 5. So some cool things we're going to be doing on that facility is we're going to be building a drone landing pad. If you haven't heard about the drone program the police department has, pretty exciting. We're going to do some power supply upgrades so that if the power goes down, their systems don't go down. And we'll be working with the police department on all those projects. That facility obviously is very sensitive, and we want to make sure that it's operating at its highest potential. So if you have any questions about any of those, please let me know, or we can move on to Community Services Department. I think Tracy Lam is up next.
Yes, good evening. Matt, I have a question. This is Commissioner Rowe.
Huh?
Please. Yeah, on the Leatherback roof repair or replacement, I was aware of a grant requested by UCSD, and they made a promise to replace that roof. Are they contributing?
To the Lauterbach roof replacement?
Yes, yes.
I am not sure, but I can definitely follow up and check it out.
All right, because they got a grant from the San Diego Water Authority to do some work there, and they offer to replace that roof. So
Okay.
I'm just curious to see if they're fulfilling their promise.
Yeah, let me check. We're unaware, but let me check and we'll get right back to you.
Thank you.
Sure.
This is Commissioner Friel. I also have a grant question. On the police upgrades that you're going to do for power resiliency, do you know if the city has applied to California Office of Emergency Services is giving grants for power resiliency?
I am unaware of that, but I will check with the police department.
I think it would probably go through Marlon King and the fire department because it would go through emergency management. But I know they're offering grants, so if they're available.
That would be great. Any dollar we can save, right?
Exactly.
So we can use it in other areas.
That's part of a message that we're looking at. We're hearing loud and clear with the federal government funding projects in the very near future. We're looking at all aspects of funding sources to make the Measure P money stretch as far as we can.
Agreed. Yeah, I think, looking for opportunities for that, definitely, any way we can stretch Measure P dollars is a great thing. We have lots of needs.
Yeah, and in the library, there's grants for library, and we'll be going after the grants for libraries as well. That could offset what we're allocated to spend, and then we can spend it someplace else. There's a lot of ways that a lot of needs in this city. So we are looking at other grant opportunities. So if are there things that you have in mind, if you could just share them with Kelly and the team and David, we'll definitely look into them because we want to make every dollar go as long as we can and get as much accomplished as we can. Good evening, Oversight Committee members. My name is Tracy Lam. I'm the Director of Community Service. I oversee parks, recs, and libraries and arts and culture. And I'm here to talk to you about 3 different projects that are under my purview that I want to share with you. Happy Earth Day to everybody. I hope you got a chance to go out and walk around in a park and enjoy and take pleasure in the wonderful planet that we get to share and enjoy. So happy Earth Day to everybody. If we can go to the next slide, please. So sports courts and fields, obviously we presented to you some time ago when you first probably met me. It was about the irrigation system. And we're still continuing to work to utilize the study that was done by the De Lorenzo study to work on water savings and water safety. We're looking at master valves and flow sensors. And then the biggest idea or biggest revelation was our communications. So our controllers and how they communicate. Some of these controllers are over 25 years or 30 years old. So we're trying to update our controllers and improve the communications so we can really work on saving water and making sure everything is flow sensors if we have a leak and everything is communicating so we're saving money and being more effective, which makes us more efficient with how we water our fields. Obviously, we're in another year of drought. We're 6 inches down already this year. With water, and so it's a real challenge for the city, and we want to make sure that we stretch every little drop as far as we can. The Lauterbach renovation has to do with a basketball court as well as the park pathway and lights. So this is all under this project here. Next slide, please.
Question, please.
Yes, sir.
This is Commissioner Romo. It's almost the same question I posed to Matt. UCSD included in their grant proposal to use money for the renovation of irrigation systems in Lauterbach. Are you contributing there?
I'm not sure on I know we received a grant for the whole Lauterbach project, but I'm not sure whose that grant was is being. So this is to supplement what the grant isn't covering. That makes sense.
Yes, it does. I just want to know if their fulfilling promise to invest their grant on this project.
We will definitely double check and cross our I's and T's and check in with our dear friends to make sure we get all the money we can.
Excellent, thank you.
No problem. So the Loma Verde Community Center, something that we presented to you at the last meeting, and you got to see the scope and some of the design of this particular project. So our goal is to replace this failed asset. If you've been down to the Loma Verde Center currently, it really needs a lot of love. And our goal really is to bring this community a state-of-the-art new type of full, not only a rec center, but a full community center with a beautiful full-size gym and modern classroom spaces and technology, and really make that an asset to this area of our city. Obviously, this is on the west side of our community, and they see a lot of new development going on in the east, and really to bring a brand new project like this will really just bring a lot of joy to this community, as well as opportunity for the youth that live in on this side of our community. We are also recommending that the city council appropriate a portion of this $15 million in the current fiscal year to begin the construction documents preparation for segment number 3 of the project. If you might remember, it was going to be phased in 3 segments. So of this project, in anticipation of finding the additional revenue sources to complete a full Loma Verde build out. So we're looking as trying to get other grants and other money so that we can do this project all at once. We think it will be cheaper, more cost effective for the city to really take this opportunity to really create this all brand new community center at Loma Verde. So we're gonna do all of that. We hope to get started on it. It's gonna take us a couple years to really complete it, but we're gonna go after and work on all 3 phases of this particular project. Next slide, please. And finally, park infrastructure. And as you can see, there is a lot of activity under park infrastructure. Many of these projects here are focused on failed park lighting, as well as playgrounds, paths and walkways, and the replacement of many failed park assets, such as benches or picnic tables, and our park signage needs. If you go there, you can't even read some of the signage. So it's really to fix a lot of that if you go through and read all that. So a lot of activity is going to take place in our parks. As you know, during COVID, our parks were highly used by our citizens and still are. And so we're very proud of them, but we got to continue to give them some love so they can continue to be a valuable asset to Chula Vista as a community. So that concludes my portion of this presentation. I'd like to turn it over to Bill Valley, Director of Engineering and Capital Projects, unless there's any questions.
This is Commissioner Elias. I do have a few questions, but I'll wait for Bill to complete, so probably he may answer some of them, so I don't have to repeat myself twice.
All right, well, thank you.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
Bill?
All right, so let's go to my slides. Hi, I'm Bill Valley. Welcome tonight, everybody, all the commissioners. I'm the Director of Engineering Capital Projects. You can go to the next slide. There we go. So this is the other public infrastructure category. So it includes various different things. Included here is going to be the corrugated metal pipe replacement. So some of you may recall we did a phase 1, a phase 2 of all the corrugated metal pipes that are outside of the public right-of-way, rehabilitation of those projects. Both of those projects are now completed. During the course of the evaluation and look, we did find 42 new locations that were unknown prior that are corrugated metal pipe locations needing rehabilitation outside the right-of-way. So there's an increase here, and I have a summary slide I'll do on the next slide that kind of goes through it. There'll be a phase 3 for the corrugated metal pipe, and that should hopefully wrap up all the known corrugated metal pipe that's outside the public right-of-way that's needing rehabilitation and lining. The other item under here is the sidewalk repair and replacement. Again, we've gone through this with you guys before, and it's right now it's the sidewalk slicing contract where we're going out and taking care of heaves, and we will be starting the third quadrant. So we added funding here to continue on with doing the entire city. We divided into 4 quadrants. The first 2 quadrants are completed on the west side, and we're starting on quadrant 3 here next month. And then lastly, the removal of dead and dying trees in the right-of-way. Next slide, please. This is a quick summary of where we're at with some of the projects that I also have ongoing. So I do a little summary slide for you. So public safety buildings, the fire stations 5 and 9 replacements. Fire station 5 is now operational. The fire folks have moved into it. 9, they are going to move in on Monday. So both of those stations will be up and running here next week fully. And we'll be wrapping up the final stages of the construction. The last portion of that is the demo of the 2 old stations. So we'll be progressing with the demolition contracts, or actually the design build will be doing those. So we'll be progressing with their authorization to demo it shortly. There'll be a slight delay on Fire Station 9's demo because it's currently being used for a special COVID treatment site for a few months. But then those will be wrapped up. Fire Station 1, that's the existing Fire Station 1 near the Civic Center. And of course, we need to rehabilitate a portion of that. So it's not a complete tear down and it's not a new project. We put out an RFP for a proposal for that rehabilitation. We have the RFP and we're actually going to council to award the design phase shortly, just next month or 2 here. And then the other public infrastructure, again, there's a remaining DRN 216 job that was put together. What's remaining there is actually what we're using to fix a emergency sinkhole on Melrose. It was near the Caltrans right of way, so we had to coordinate with them to gain access. That's been wrapped up finally and signed off, so that's in the closeout phase. The sidewalk rehab is the one I mentioned to you earlier, 1.9 here, but we're adding to that to continue with quadrant 3 work. It begins in May. Traffic signal system project, that's upgrading a bunch of 13, I think, different old traffic signal systems on the west side, and that's actually in construction currently. And then those proposed new additions, like I said, it would be a 3.3 million job for quarterly metal pipe rehabilitation. That's phase 3 outside the right-of-way. There's an additional $1 million for the sidewalk work that we're doing above. And then you see the Fire Station 1 repair and replacement job, the bidding, or the needs for that. We need to add about $550K for that. And I think that wraps up my presentation.
So this is Commissioner Elias. Thank you, Bill, and everybody for the presentation. I'm the new guy here, so I may have some questions that have been answered previously, so please bear with me. Sure. I think some things I want to talk about is, first of all, I've been reading a lot of on the pages 21 to 26 to 28 or so on all the project status updates that are in place. And one of the questions I had was that, is there any data, or are you guys tracking if these projects are either trending above or beyond the estimated project budget? Is there some tracking mechanism for that?
Well, I can address the projects that I did in the past, say our pavement projects, for example. When the program was put together, we had very, very high level estimates from a very high level, what do we call it? Asset management report that we went out and we did evaluations citywide, but of course, very high level, but to get an idea for what the cost would be. And then that's how we crafted actually the measure that went forward to the public and said, here's what our commitments are. And so say for our pavement projects, we had estimated, I believe it was, we looked at it trying to get up to a PCI. We were fixing all the poor streets that were in the PCI range of 0 to 25. That was the commitment. Residential streets only, not arterials. So focusing really on a community asset. And I think our estimate at the time was 22.5 million. I think at the end of the day, we went out with the projects. We were able to get actually up to about a PCI of 34. And we actually had, at the end of the day, a couple million left over that I rolled into the drainage items, the CMP rehab. The CMP rehab item, you know, that was a very high level, again, estimate, assuming we could line all pipes. Well, as you got into it and we did the investigations, some pipes could be lined, some couldn't. And we also had a lot of issues with difficulties in accessing pipes. Pipes were put in without access points and stuff. And those details weren't available back when we did the asset management. It was very broad. It's like, here's a pipe, a line on the map. Okay, so much to line it. So in that case, with the CMPs, you know, there were some cost increases because of these unforeseen. It's like we knew there were going to be issues because it wasn't, you know, fully investigated, but it still came pretty close to budget when it comes to the cost per linear foot of what we're getting for the projects. We got really good bids, both on the asphalt jobs. We got great bids on actually on the CMP rehab jobs as well, and good contractors as well. That helped, you know, for our first CMP rehab. Well, I shouldn't comment, but some are better than others. We got pretty good contractors and bids. But the problem with the CMP and why it's gonna be above what we originally estimated is because we found, like we just mentioned, 42 new locations that we were doing investigations were discovered that weren't on our previous master plan layout. We weren't aware of them. So there have been those kinds of cost increases, but not totally uncommon in terms of what we would see on that type of construction projects. Our design build for the fire stations were great. I mean, we got good bids right pretty much where we wanted them, actually a little bit under at about, I think we're going to be around 21 million for 2 brand new fire stations and demos. So that was pretty good. I think we were estimating a little, like a couple million higher than that. Again, it's luck of the draw with the, you know, those were design builds. So we had good design build proposals and contractors to work with.
So I guess, sorry to interrupt you, but I guess on the project status updates, typically is there a tracking per project that shows if a project like towards end of construction or a closeout side, if its trend is higher or lower? And I guess that segues to my second question is, you know, I completely understand high level estimates at the time of planning and trying to figure it out. But does the estimates typically also have contingencies that are tracked separately?
So for these types of projects, I have my own database that tracks like a typical CIP project. So I track the project. Once we set the, once we get a budget here and we say this is what we're going to go for, then we bid it. And whatever it comes in at, that's what I manage, right? And
but
so,
our own city system, I guess, you know, maybe it's something to look at is like, we would like to see like how each project, you know, restroom upgrades or pavement work or park recreations, typically there's a budget assigned, and how are we tracking? Are we going over or under? And hopefully, you know, fingers crossed, we continue to go under and then utilize that money and maybe put it in the contingency bucket to further continue the major P projects.
right. Well, we could certainly summarize some of what we've done. I think whenever I go over if I was going to go over the budget, I would have come back to this committee and said, I need an allocation to cover this overage. And I don't think I've done that too much other than for the unforeseen issues or for that emergency sinkhole, which came up out of the blue, which was an unforeseen element. So I think we've done pretty well, but I'd have to let Matt speak on all of the other projects because those are handled a little differently.
Got it.
Yeah, so on the facilities projects, we are starting to implement those kind of very traditional project management measures, right? So, you know, because what we're finding on our side because really what's been happening on the Measure P stuff is really we've had a heavy, you know, bill side of the house has really gone heavy for the last couple of years. Now we're starting to ramp up on the facility side, and we're going to bring those project management principles in because the projects that we have done have come in over budget, and not because the estimate was wrong, because again, the facilities are complicated, right? So when you go and do an HVAC system, you think one component's bad and you get into it and the whole thing is bad. It's really about the scope changing. And I think that needs to be tracked as well. So I agree with you that those kind of basic, you know, the things that all of us who are civil engineers or, you know, project managers know that, you know, the basic idea, schedule, cost, and scope. You track those and you're going to be successful. And the communication of how we do that, I think, is important.
Right. That's great, guys. You know, I would love to see, you know, how we can do that better, because ultimately the goal is to track and see if contingencies within project budgets are being used. And as we continue to close the projects through construction, are we tracking them going higher or lower? And that hopefully we go lower and all that money can be put into a bucket to be utilized for the projects. And the last question I had is I was going through the documents here. It's really awesome what you guys are doing, trying to get the Measure P implemented for the citizens of the city for their enjoyment and use and safety. One thing I do not see here, which I would like to, and it's something I'm it's very close to my heart, is how are we utilizing local and small businesses and contractors to make sure they can implement these upgrades and renovations? So is there some kind of a matrix we can see to highlight, to showcase the utilization of small and local businesses as contractors, professional services firms and stuff like that?
The city doesn't have any overall requirement for that. We do have that as part of the goal, and when we bid projects out, we certainly get that information as part of the contracts that get submitted to us. We legally do not have the ability to require or mandate that, but we do provide support as much as we can for all of our projects to support local businesses. I think we do a pretty good job in Chula Vista. And I think some of the jobs that we've got coming up are going to provide greater opportunities. As Matt pointed out, there's lots of Tracy, there's lots of miscellaneous jobs in the future that can be let out to smaller contractors.
Yeah, what we find on the facility side, so, because our contracts are much smaller, they may be, under 100 grand and we may have 10 of them. And I think that really attracts local small businesses, because if you're a business in LA, you're not going to be interested in that, right? Because you're not going to be able to compete. So I think on the public works side, just by the nature of our projects, we tend to get a lot of local contractors who we built long, we're very fortunate. There are a lot of local contractors and a lot of, and so they know our systems, and it makes it, beneficial for us.
Same on the
Matt.
application.
Yeah, and for the capital projects, we follow the contract law, so we have to put it out to low bidder. And but most of the times it's not maybe Chula Vista, but it's local. But you get primes and subs, and then but we do low bid. So
that's great.
So do we.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say we follow, we follow the same, Bill and us follow the same contracting rules. It's just the nature of the projects and the size tend to,
absolutely. California Public Contract Code and, absolutely governs. It would be good to see how we can do outreach for the bigger contractors to utilize local small subcontractors for trades, just to make sure that we can get more local talent to be utilized for these upcoming projects.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, guys.
So I do have, do the committee members have any clarifying questions for staff before we go to public comment?
A question from Oscar Romo.
Okay, Commissioner.
I was aware of a project to make Bonita, H Street, L Street, and Olympic Parkway as smart corridors. I did not see any of that reflected in your presentation. Is it that because it's going to come from the general fund of those improvements, or that project has been postponed?
Oscar, I'm not sure which project you're referring to, because we have a lot out there. If you're talking about the adaptive traffic signal project,
that was one.
Yeah, so that's already done. It was done with HSIP, so state money, and that dealt with H Street, Otay Lakes Road, and that whole thing. That was not a Measure P project.
Okay, there was another one to install sensors on cross streets on those corridors. Was that identified as Measure P project?
I think you may be, I think it was all included in that one project. I don't know of another project we're going to go out and put in additional sensors in those corridors. It was kind of a two-phase project, and one phase was installing the adaptive the sensors. Another was to put in the adaptive control systems. in all the signals and coordinate and bring those back to our TMC, Traffic Management Center. So that project's completed, but it wasn't major P.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
I had a question. This is Nicole Enriquez.
Go ahead.
When it comes to the pavement projects, is there, I know, because I had just recently on my street here in West Chula Vista, you know, and it was a subcontractor that came through and worked on the street. I had this expectation of a completely new and redone street, and then come to my, you come to find out they may not be finished. So I'm just wondering, projects, is it a completely redone street, or is it patchwork? How does that determine? How does that work?
We have multiple pavement projects that go on. Some are Measure P, some are gas tax, some are Transnet. We use, each project is a little different in the strategy it uses. For the Measure P projects, because those were streets that were in very, very poor repair, from 0 to 25 PCI, it looks like gravel. I mean, everybody, I'm sure we all walk out like, it's like, my street is really terrible, but it's like, you go down the road, it's like, you'll see some worse streets. But anyway, for the Measure P ones, they were and even in our other ones, there is a sequence. So if a street's on the rehab list and it's gonna have work done, typically the first thing we'll do is go out, and depending on how cracked it is, the cracks will get sealed with asphalt rubber material. There'll be isolated locations typically on a street that are depressed or that have lots of deterioration. So there'll be dig out. So there'll be a separate operation that comes out and they'll dig out, put in patches and stuff, and that's the dig out phase. And then if the street's gonna either get an overlay, a 2-inch, like say asphalt overlay, it could get a 3/4 inch chip seal. Typically then we'll come in and you may or may not have that next operation will be shoulder grind. So up next to your curbs, there'll be a little taper ground out so that when the overlay goes in, it ties into the top of the gutter. So really on a street rehab job, they don't come in one day and then they're gone, unless it's just like a seal coat job, and even then. So there's usually phases to it. And yeah, I do get a lot of calls of people saying, I thought, what are you doing? It's like, oh, we're not done. We'll be back. But the contractor usually has subcontractors. And so the people doing the milling, the grinding is probably not the prime. So they have to stage them to come in at, one after another. And a lot of times they want to get one operation through before they start the next so they can work that through. So it can be, weeks or months, depending on how long the job is, before they come back. But yes, it's typically done in phases. I don't know which street you've got or where you're at. The other thing is you might see we've had a lot of utility work going on. So there's been a lot of 5G and fiber and folks going in doing that. And so those will end up with patches in streets. In some cases, if the street's recently been paved, we do have a pavement moratorium policy. So if a street has been paved with asphalt, it's a 5-year pavement moratorium policy. So if a utility comes in and cuts a trench, a longitudinal trench, they have to pave the whole lane width, not just repair the trench. But if it's after that 5 years, then it falls back to what the traditional is, and they have to repair the trench and not do the whole lane width. But typically by that time, it's coming up to where we're going to do a preventative maintenance strategy, hopefully on the whole street. So.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any more clarifying questions before we go to public comment? Okay, so staff, please start the timer for 2 minutes to allow the public to submit any final comments on item number 6.1A, B, and C. As a reminder to the CLC members, please refresh the view on your e-comment screen during the pause to ensure that any new comments appear. Okay, did staff receive any public comments on item number 6.1?
No comments have been received.
All right, thank you. Do any COC members have any comments or further deliberation on this item? Can I get a motion for approval and a second?
I'll motion, this is Commissioner Elias. I will put the motion to approve.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. And do I have
I
a
s-
second?
I second it, Oscar Romo.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Will the secretary please call the roll call vote?
Committee member Enriquez,
Yes.
committee member First,
Yes.
committee member Friels,
Yes.
committee member Hunter,
Yes.
committee member Ilias,
Yes.
committee member Lengyel,
Yes.
committee member Martinez,
No.
committee member Rito,
Yes.
committee member Romo,
Yes.
committee member Saldivar,
Yes.
committee member Vigilante,
Yes.
committee member Voorhees,
Yes.
committee member Ziomek,
Yes.
Chair Garcias.
Vote yes.
So that was 13 yeses and 1 no.
Okay, thank you. The motion passes. Moving on to item number 6.2. Staff, can you begin the presentation?
Yeah, so the audit item on page 34 through 40 of the attachment is our annual requirement in the Measure P ordinance for us, the city, to hire an independent auditor to review the compliance of the expenditures related to Measure P projects and purchases. That report is attached, and the auditor did give us another clean audit report for the 5th consecutive year. And if you have any questions on the item, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, great. Let me see. Do the committee members have any clarifying questions for staff before we go to public comment?
This is Commissioner Romo. I think that this is a no-brainer. In order to fulfill our obligations, we need to audit this process. So I don't know, we need to discuss it.
Okay, do we have any more clarifying questions for staff before we go to public comment? Okay, seeing none, so staff, please start the timer for 2 minutes to allow the public to submit a final comment on item 6.2 A, B, and C. As a reminder, COC members, please refresh the view on your e-comment screen during the pause to ensure that any new comments appear. Okay, thank you. Did staff receive any public comments?
No comments have been received.
Okay, thank you. So do any COC members have any comments or further deliberations on this item? If not, can I get a motion for approval and a second?
This is Commissioner Romo moving to approve the staff to hire an external consultant to review the expenditures of Measure B.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Do I have a second?
I believe it's to accept the findings, right? Not to hire an external consultant.
No, I believe it's to accept the findings.
Yeah.
I'm modifying my motion to accept the no wording, expand the findings. Yes.
Thank you, Oscar. I will second it.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
Tag team here.
Okay, will the secretary please take the roll call vote?
Committee member Enriquez,
Yes.
committee member First,
Yes.
committee member Friels,
Yes.
committee member Hunter,
Yes.
committee member Ilias,
Yes.
committee member Lengyel,
Yes.
committee member Martinez,
Yes.
committee member Rito,
Yes.
committee member Romo,
Yes.
committee member Saldivar,
Yes.
committee member Vigilante,
Yes.
committee member Voorhees,
Yes.
committee member Ziamek,
Yes.
Chair Garcias.
And the chair votes yes.
That would be 14 yeses.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to action item 6.3. Staff, can you begin the presentation?
Yeah, so item 6.3 is the adoption or the recommendation for council to adopt the annual budget and for the Measure P subcommittee to take action on the budget being in compliance with the Measure P ordinance. So on page 41 of your attachment is the fiscal year 21-22 proposed budget. And basically the projects that were discussed earlier by directors Little, Lam, and Valley are all the projects that are included in that fiscal year 21-22 budget. And so with that, council staff is recommending approval of item 6.3, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
This is Commissioner Romo. I have a question, not exactly about the accepting the budget, but my represent the Sustainability Commission asked me to present a report to them. And I wonder if this is the appropriate documentation to share with the other commissioners.
Are the report you're referring to, is it related to item 6.3 or is that you're talking about 6.4?
Well, I need a recommendation on what report should I present before the Sustainability Commission of the COC.
I'm not sure clear on what report are they asking for. We have lots of reports that we have and we prepare.
They'd like to know through the fiscal year 2020 what the Measure P COC did. So I wonder if there's other than these reports something that I can present to that commission.
I think the best report would be the item 6.4. If you would like my opinion, that report basically is the conclusion of the fiscal year and it's the preparation of the activities and the expenditures that were related to Measure P. So that would be my recommendation, but you can certainly make a referral to staff during committee member comment section of this agenda and request us to discuss that internally and come back with a recommendation.
Okay, that would be perfect. And in fact, I would need help presenting that. So I wonder if you or any other one can join me at one of the Sustainability Commission meetings to present the report.
Certainly, we could coordinate that, no problem.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any other clarifying questions before we go to public comment?
Yeah, I'd just like to comment. This is Greg Martinez, Commissioner Martinez.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, so I just would like to note, and I'm a little bit surprised looking at these numbers, that so the recreation centers and the senior center is like $16 million. It's almost half of the total Measure P, spending proposal. That just seems like, I mean, as a citizen, and I have a lot of friends here, and I don't think most of the people that I know, we don't really use them, the recreation centers and the senior centers, that much. And when I voted for Measure P, well, actually I voted against it, but my my impression of it is it was going to go for like streets, it was going to go for police vehicles, police, infrastructure things. Mainly, I think of streets, and things that are kind of falling apart. Maybe we need a new a police station. I know there's been talk that we should have a police station here on the east side of Chula Vista. Lately there's been a few murders in this area, and we're kind of concerned. I know they're moving in a lot of high density housing, and we've seen issues like with that, especially before COVID. Now it's COVID, everybody's locked down, but I'd just like to make that comment that it's just kind of surprising to me that half of this budget is going for these recreation centers and senior centers, and I'm not sure how much of the public really uses those, but anyhow.
Okay, so any more clarifying questions?
Yeah, I just have a clarifying question here. I see some, pretty precise numbers in the, I'm guessing these are project budget numbers, not construction cost numbers.
They are. They're categorical numbers for all projects within those categories.
No, right, but for each project, they're like for item number K, the 15916, that's the overall project number, which includes construction cost and everything, right?
It's a project category, which includes multiple projects within each letter that you see on that budget. But yes, it includes all project costs, as you're saying, yes.
Okay, got it. Where would citizens be able to see how are these put together? Is it conceptual estimates, or we have some detailed estimates on this?
I'll defer to Matt Little and Bill Valley about project estimates.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, so this is Bill. So for our CIPs, like for our corrugated metal pipe one, like I think I mentioned to you before, we generally it's high level estimates. We looked at, the linear footage of the pipe, the size of the pipe, and what we've been traditionally getting on our bids, and then we add the markups to it, and then we put in a contingency, and then, we follow through on that. We did the same thing with the pavement was, we had one big number. You almost look at that line item as it was one big project, but it was too big, so we decided to cut it into three. But we knew which streets they were, and we had that original, program level budget in there. So that's what our target was. When we went forward with the projects for these big ones, we didn't want to go over that, and so that's why we worked on strategies and things to make sure that we made the budget, met the commitment of 0 to 25, and came in under budget. For the smaller projects, I think you're gonna. I'll defer to Matt, but I mean, even the fire station, same thing. Early on, it was what is the typical going rate for a fire station? We just built Millennia. It's about 11 million a station. Okay, that's what we're doing. And then as we actually created the CIP, in it and got started with it. And we fine-tuned the estimate before it went to the next phase, basically.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
was for the big jobs. Yep.
Oh, I would, for Commissioner Martinez, I know on page 45 of the agenda draft, you'll see a pie chart of all the different things the Measure P money is used for, and it shows all the different things. The largest, I think, is streets, but it has different ones, and this one's from the 2019-2020 fiscal year, but it gives you an idea of the diverse items that are being used. So if you refer to page 45 of the PDF. So going, now let me
Chair
just.
Garcias,
Yes.
this is committee member first. If we refer to the agenda page number 16, which has the expenditure plan, it has the breakdown in dollars of what all the categories are. And what we're being asked tonight to approve is essentially 1 year of a 10-year plan. So we may only be seeing a small snippet, and maybe a majority of the expenditures are in one category, but ultimately the categories that are shown on page 16 is the target for the entire plan. And so I think Mr. Valley has probably gone ahead and implemented a lot of the street work, because that was easily put together and able to put out the bid quickly and get some good prices. And so I think that's what we're seeing is the projects that take longer to implement, the buildings and the parks are going to lag. And I think that's what staff has brought to us in the past with recommendations on moving some of the funding around. So I think I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Commissioner, for a very good point. Okay, so staff, can you please start the timer for 2 minutes to allow the public to submit any final comments on item 6.3 AB? As a reminder to the COC members, please refresh the view on your e-comment screen during the pause to ensure that any new comments appear. Okay, did staff receive any public comments on items number 6.3?
No comments have been received.
Okay, do any COC members have any comments or further deliberations on this item? Or can I get a
I do.
motion for approval? Oh, yes. Who's that?
I'd like to comment. This is Greg Martinez. So yeah, I got a couple of responses to my point. So I figured, well, I mean, you know you're going to win, and I'm going to be the only dissenting vote. But since you chose to kind of make a comment there, yeah, I was looking at page 41. That's what I was told to look at, right? And yeah, that just says that almost $16 million is going to be spent out of what, 34 million just on recreation centers. And you know, that's just the truth of it. I know that, okay, over 10 years, it's not going to be that. But I mean, that's just the reality. And I think that the thing that I find just so interesting is that here we are, you know, our kids are locked out of schools. You know, we've been on these lockdowns for a year now, you know, and our rights taken away from us, you know, and now we're going to spend an outsized amount of money on public gathering places that I'm not even sure were used that much before the COVID hit. So it just seems ironic to me. So since you wanted to respond to me, I figured I would put my 2 cents in.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do we have a motion for approval and a second?
I just want one comment. I was actually wanting, this isn't Commissioner or Member Enriquez, and as the Parks and Rec representative, I was actually kind of, you know, on the opposite end of Mr. Martinez in my excitement to see the commitment to recreation centers in our city, knowing that the Parks and Rec annual budget is significantly lower than comparable sized cities in our nation and even in California and in our local vicinities. So knowing that there's not a lot to work with within the Parks and Recreation budget, to see that our taxpayer dollars are being spent in areas that of need, it's exciting for me to see.
Thank you. Commissioner Enriquez, did you want to make a motion?
Sure. I motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second,
Commissioner
Romo.
Friels, I second.
Okay, Commissioner Romo seconded. So we have a motion and a second. Will the secretary please take the roll call vote?
Committee Member Enriquez,
Yes.
Committee Member First,
Yes.
Committee Member Friels,
Yes.
Committee Member Hunter,
Yes.
Committee Member Ilias,
Yes.
Committee Member Lungel,
Yes.
Committee Member Martinez,
No.
Committee Member Rito,
Yes.
Committee Member Romo,
Yes.
Committee Member Saldivar,
Yes.
Committee Member Vigilante,
Yes.
Committee Member Voorhees,
Yes.
Committee Member Ziamek,
Yes.
Committee Member or Chair Garcias.
The chair votes yes.
Okay, so that is 13 yeses, 1 no.
Okay, the motion passes. Let's move on to action item number 6.4. Staff, can you begin the presentation?
Sure, you guys are sick of me by now, but David Bilby back for item 6.4. This is our annual report. This is a part of our ordinance that talks about what we've completed and the activities we've done in the prior fiscal year. So it's not audit related specifically, it's more activity related. And so just to give you a brief history, this is our 4th year of doing this. In the initial couple of years, we received a lot of feedback from the committee and ended up forming multiple subcommittees and working with the chairs to come up with this format for this report. This year, we went ahead and refreshed the report with all current information. A huge debt of gratitude to Sandy Delap, our board secretary, carrying the heavy weight for the preparation of this report tonight. We ran it by Chair Garcias, and it's open for discussion if any committee members have any recommendations, but basically staff is recommending that we coordinate and adopt this report and bring it to the chair, bring it to council for presentation. And if you have any questions, myself or Sandy would be happy to respond.
First, I would like to just speak real quick and want to say thank you to Sandy for all the hard work. I know we had difficulty communicating at one point, but thank you for all the work putting it together. So thank you, Sandy and David, for all the hard work putting this together. Is there another commissioner that wanted to speak? Any other commissioner? Okay, so do the committee members have any other clarifying questions for staff before we go to public comments? Okay, staff, can you please start the timer for 2 minutes to allow the public to submit any final comments on item number 6.4? As a reminder, COC members, please refresh the view on your e-comment screen during the pause to ensure that any new comment appears. Okay, did staff receive any comments on item number 6.4?
No comments have been received.
Okay. Do any COC members have any comments or further deliberations on this item?
Member Voorhees has a comment.
Oh, thank you. Member Voorhees?
Thank you. Thank you again. I agree that everyone put in a lot of hard work on this, and it's a very comprehensive report. My only concern with it has been my concern year after year on this is that, this is a 10-year program, right? And we're a victim of our own success a lot of times on this because we've done a lot of great work, but, in doing so, we've purchased a lot of vehicles and a lot of equipment that are going to be beyond their useful life in 10 years. And so what's the plan 6 years from now when this tax goes away? If there is no plan, or if the plan is to try for another tax increase, we should let our residents and taxpayers know that sooner rather than later. So I would always ask for something in this report to indicate looking ahead or something to the effect of what's going to be done when Measure P runs out. And we've neglected to do that to this point. So I would hope we would do that in the future. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Voorhees.
So that's a great comment. We'll certainly put that in as an element to consider next time.
Thank you.
I just had a quick comment. This is Commissioner Martinez.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so this was like an extra sales tax that was imposed upon the citizens. I mean, you know, I guess what I would like to see is maybe a little bit, you know, more fiscal responsibility instead of saying, oh, hey, get ready, there's going to be another tax increase, another temporary tax increase after this. And, you know, I mean, this is supposed to be a special thing, right? This is not supposed to be permanent. And I think, you know, eventually the citizens will, you know, kind of not take it anymore in terms of, you know, these taxes that are supposed to be temporary, and then suddenly they become permanent before they even stop. I mean, still got a few years to go, right? So, you know, I just had to react to that comment because I felt it was, you know, pretty interesting actually.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Commissioner Rito.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do I have a second?
Second, Commissioner Friels.
Thank you, Commissioner. So we have a motion and a second. Will the secretary please take the roll call vote?
Committee Member Enriquez,
Yes.
Committee Member First,
Yes.
Committee Member Friels,
Yes.
Committee Member Hunter,
Yes.
Permítame un segundo, por favor.
Committee Member Ilias.
Yes.
Que estoy en una junta con el
Can
gobierno
you
y
please
estoy.
mute yourself if you are not speaking? Oscar,
Yes.
please mute yourself. Thank you. Committee Member Lengyel,
Yes.
Committee Member Martinez,
Yes.
Committee Member Rito,
Yes.
Committee Member Romo,
Yes.
Committee Member Saldivar,
Yes.
Committee Member Vigilante,
Yes.
Committee Member Voorhees,
No.
Committee Member Ziamek,
Yes.
Chair Garcias.
The chair votes yes.
You have 13 yeses, 1 no.
Okay, the motion passes. So moving, let's see. Moving on to the staff presentation on item number 7. No action is required by the COC on this item. Staff, can you begin the presentation?
Thank you. It's me again, back for item 7.1. So this is the 20th consecutive quarter, if my math serves, that we're presenting the quarterly results for the Measure P expenditure plan. Staff prepared this information for me, and basically this is a rundown of the major expenditures that we completed during the third quarter of the fiscal year for 2021. So briefly, we spent about $25,000 in fire vehicle outfitting and leasing costs. We purchased 17 police vehicles this quarter, 2020 Ford utility hybrid vehicles for the police department, along with the leasing and outfitting costs totaling a little over $1.1 million. We purchased a non-safety vehicle for Public Works, an F450, with vehicle lease and outfitting costs of $77,000. And then the vast majority of our costs on a quarterly basis are project payments. This quarter was probably heavy in some of our fire station projects and some of our corrugated metal pipe projects for this quarter. And that is the end of my staff presentation for our Q3 expenditures for 2021.
Thank you. Do the committee members have any clarifying questions for staff before we go to other business? Okay, seeing none. So we'll go to, do we have any staff comments?
I was just going to say a couple of things. I know this is coming to the end of many of your terms. Hopefully you'll be contacted by the city clerk and be asked to renew. We appreciate your participation in this committee and support you joining us for another 4 years. The other thing I was going to mention, as we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of federal funding aimed our way in many different categories. We're still evaluating it, as many jurisdictions are. And hopefully by the time we meet the next time, we'll have a little bit better handle on the guidance that's coming with those monies, how it can be spent, what kind of activities we can use it on, and whether any of it can impact the Measure P project list and maybe extend our ability to do more projects than maybe we haven't originally anticipated. So those are the 2 comments I had.
Thank you. Any other staff comments? See no. Do any of the committee members have comments?
Don Hunter.
Commissioner Don Hunter, go ahead.
I am not extending my term, so this will be my last meeting. I wanted to take the opportunity, one, to echo and thank committee members Voorhees and Martinez for again bringing up the need for a plan going forward so that we don't have another tax at the end of this particular tax. But I also want to commend the staff on what a good job they've done in effectively using the money that has come in and being steadfast in focusing on infrastructure, equipment, and et cetera. And probably most importantly, I want to thank the staff, both the staff that we see at every meeting and also the staff behind the scenes that prepare all of our informational packets, that take the time to put together the presentations. That takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. So thank you, staff, very much. And then finally, I just wanted to thank Sandy for all of the effort that she puts in. Many times getting this group to commit and to be where we're supposed to be, when we're supposed to be, is like herding cats. And I just want to thank Sandy for all of her effort and patience in working with this group.
Thank you, Commissioner Hunter. Is there anyone else? Any other committee member comments? Okay, seeing none, it is now 7:43 p.m. and I'm adjourning the meeting to the next regular meeting on July 22nd at 6 p.m. in the lunchroom of the John Lippitt Public Works Center, 1800 Maxwell Road, Chula Vista. So thank you all for attending. Have a nice evening.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
Did we need to make a motion to
Goodbye.
adjourn?
I'm making a motion to adjourn. This is Oscar.
Yeah, I'll second it. We all agreed because they hung up, but yeah, there. If you needed it for the record, there it is.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Maritza,
I'm here.
can you please stop the recording?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Oh, wait.